Welcome to the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Pluff. Each week, we will cover various topics that dads struggle with in their fitness journey. I'll give you actionable steps that you can apply right away, not only to take back control of your own health, but so you're able to be a better example for your kids too. All right. Welcome into this week's episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. I am joined today by Tom Mouland. Tom, I was on his podcast here about a month or so ago, and we've had the chance to connect a couple times here over the last few months. And so it's been good to get to know a little bit more about him. I'm going to let him introduce himself real quick, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. It was awesome chatting with you on my podcast. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you having me as a guest. So my name is Tom Mouland. Often pronounced as Mouland, and either's fine. So I've been an online coach since 2019 and a trainer since 2016. Best place to find my socials and content and stuff like that is Tom the Trainer Fitness on Instagram, Tom Mouland on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then I have the Tom the Trainer's Fitness Over 40 podcast as well, where you were an awesome guest. Yep. So. Yeah. And then I specialize in helping parents. I probably help more fathers than I do mothers. There was a time there where I was probably 50-50 with male and female clients, and then I've just kind of gravitated a little bit towards working with men over the last few years. Just not that I don't want to work with women. It just seems as though that I've gravitated to, or it's been attracting more dads and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I love the fact that it's a fatherhood fitness podcast, and let's talk about let's talk about it, man. So
yeah. No, I know. So Tom and I were talking before the show got started here about he's kind of got a unique way of kind of working on transformation with clients. But before we get into that, you mentioned, I know last time we talked to you, you talked about how you kind of used to work with more moms, now you're working with more dads. Obviously, I work specifically with dads here. As far as my online coaching goes, in person, had lots of experience working with lots of different people. What is your take on? So, one of the questions I get here is, the dads I'm working with, they're like, I've been really getting into this. My wife's starting to get into it as well, and she's been asking questions about, can she do the same thing? Should she be doing something different than me? I guess since you have worked specifically with both, how do you kind of program that? Do you program very similarly, or are there kind of some unique mechanisms you use?
Yeah, so honestly, the only time that I would say that I'm necessarily wanting to change program for male to female clients is maybe based upon specific areas of the body that men want to focus on bringing up more than, say, women. Like, say, for example, I've never had a dad come into me and be like, you know what, my goal is I want you to give me a nice, big, juicy butt, Tom. So I'm not ever going to put a father on my Pump Up the Peach program that I will give to women. But I think for the most part, and with that as well, I wouldn't give my women golden era size and strength programming, because that's about lifting heavy and being really strong, and it's a power building program, and generally they're not as drawn to it. And right. I've never really had a woman come to me and be like, I want you to give me big, juicy, nasty shoulders, and I'm like, all right, we can do that. So aside from specialty programs, I personally think that the programming should be the same across the board. And then the only other consideration that I would take with that in my programming would be, maybe I might start a female client with a different program that I would start one of my male clients with, based upon their personality. Mm-hmm. And just based upon the fact that I have one program that works well for both men and women. But I find my female clients just tend to love it, and guys are like, yeah, it works, but they want to do something different, because it's a giant set program with lighter weights, time under tension, and that kind of stuff. So that's my take on programming. And then also, obviously, it's the individuality that comes in the coaching. And I have this look at programming as well, whereas I feel as though that everybody should really be starting off. I think people have kind of I think a lot of people have lost touch with maybe what got them what got them to transform. bodybuilders, fitness influencers, coaches. It's like they've lost a little bit of touch with like, hey, the stuff that I do now, where I've been lifting for ever, and I've put arguably 40 or 50 pounds of muscle on my frame at what was 140 pounds ripped in 2016. That programming is awesome that I do, but I don't give that to my clients because I'd be losing touch with what got me to where I am now.
Right.
And that's why I like to take the programming approach that I do, because it's all about building the fundamentals and progressing over time with things. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I think, there are a lot of things that are, very similar across, male and female programs here, but obviously it's personal preference too, kind of what they're looking for, kind of an upper body, lower body focus there. But now you talk about, your transformation, kind of the mechanism you use or kind of your approach to it. Now you kind of caught my attention when you started talking about it, because I was like, a lot of times, a lot of programs are very similar. A lot of coaches are very similar. The science doesn't change, what works doesn't change and stuff. And so I'm interested to kind of hear your take, because it sounds like you found something that might be a little bit unique.
For sure, yeah, and I appreciate that. And I think like I'm all for the science. However, I don't know about you or not, but like, man, I feel like I'm just worn out with the whole like science-backed, science says marketing that's on socials these days, because like it all works, right? And so if you look at my programming, for example, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm against science, but I would say like I use different principles that work at different times that are all backed by science that I think all work. But have you earned the right to get to that training style?
Yeah.
You're walking in the gym and you've got 40 pounds to lose as a male, and you haven't trained or haven't consistently found training in the last 3 years, aside from maybe a couple of days per week with months off here and there or whatever it may be, or you've been like, you haven't earned the right to go in and use a high intensity style of training and doing lengthened partials and all these things that is in the science-based community talking about what's best and what's optimal.
Yeah.
I do that stuff now, but I train 4 days a week and have for however long, and I've gone through that, right? So that's something that I like to kind of just like bring a lot of awareness to, is it's like it all works, and it all works at different times in your journey as well. Enter, how I like to program. So personally, like, I think something that's very unique about my programming that a lot of people overlook as a progression model is training splits, right? So everyone that starts with me starts on full body workouts. Depending on the program, they're going to be on full body workouts for 4 weeks minimum before they progress to their next training split. But often it's 12 weeks of upper lower. And then you spend your 4 to 12 weeks on your upper lower before you progress to push pull legs. Once you've progressed to maybe a little bit more standardized volume of push pull legs and not a lot of intensity methods, well, now you can go to upper lower with intensity methods. And then once you've done your upper lower with intensity methods, you can go to push pull legs with intensity methods. So that when you start out, you start with the basics and the fundamentals and the high return on your time exercises.
Right.
Squat, bench, deadlift, rows, etc. You give your body a minimal dose per muscle per training session, but the dose is frequent. And you get really good at those exercises. We'll say 90% of people start with 12 weeks on full body. And then within my program, your exercise selections change every 4 weeks. However, they're similar exercises, but different variations of them. And the difficulty of each variation is also viewed as a progression model. So, depending on how educated your listeners are and that kind of stuff. As an example, a step up and a lunge and a Bulgarian split squat and a front foot elevated lunge and a walking lunge and a stationary lunge and a reverse lunge are all variations of a split squat, but they all present different variations of demand for stability, coordination,
Right.
how much load you can put through them, etc., etc., etc. So I change my exercises every 4 weeks with clients, but I keep within the same categories that are going to give them the best return for their time invested, depending on what outcome they want in each program, as a progression model as well. Getting nerdy here, right? And then I do the same thing after they go from full body. I do the same thing with upper lower. I do the same thing with push pull legs, etc., etc.
Okay. I don't mean to cut you off here. Now, as you're obviously, like, this makes sense to me, right? If somebody were like brand new to this, it might be a little confusing here. Now, for your progressions here, if somebody comes to you and says, I have 4 days a week to work out, and then somebody else says, I have 2 days a week to work out, and that's all I can stick to, does that affect how you utilize those progressions, or do you kind of still do it in the same way there?
Okay, so for full clarity, I don't take on clients personally who are going to consistently only be able to train 2 days per week.
Okay.
For online coaching.
Gotcha.
For in-person clients, I do, but I don't do it for online coaching.
Okay.
Now, if you were only training twice per week, I'm probably not going to spend much time on push-pull legs.
Right.
But I will spend a lot of time on full-body workouts and upper-lower workouts. And if I'm trying to build muscle, then maybe after a period of time where they've been on upper-lower for a while, the next time that we make it to upper-lower, I might start increasing some intensity methods.
Yeah.
If my in-person clients can train on their own 1 day per week, well, then that's a different story yet again, because now they've got 3 days per week, and I think they can still get great results from push-pull legs on 3 days per week, because the focus of push-pull legs is for building muscle, and therefore they can bring a high intensity to it, and they will recover, and they will still grow muscle, right?
Right.
But my online clients is like, I need you to give me 4 days per week. They're going to be 45-ish to 50-ish minute workouts. Can you commit to that? And I don't mean 52 weeks out of the year, because that's not life. But is that your commitment? Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you so, like, obviously, like, your clients, like, I mean, you've been in the industry for a decade now. You've seen tons of clients come through the door and stuff. And when did you make this shift to kind of this progression model here? I'm assuming, as most coaches are, as what you do in year 1 is very different than what you do in year 10 there. And so when did you kind of notice, like, something's got to change?
So I had a mentor in the beginning stages of my career when I was a in-person trainer working with the largest gym corporation in Canada. He was a regional manager, and the way that he told me when I walked into the gym as a personal trainer that the best way to program had this kind of model to it, and then obviously I adjusted it to refine it and make it a little bit more of my own. But it still started out with, like, hey, when somebody comes into the gym in the beginning stages, don't annihilate them with a chest day for an hour and send them home not able to drive. Hit them with full body workouts and hit them with compound movements, skill-based exercises. You need to develop the skill on those exercises, and the best way to do so is through repetition and practice and controlling your exercises to start. And you need to get 1,000 repetitions of those main movements, those skill-based exercises that are going to give you the best time on your return invested, or on your time invested. Squat, bench, deadlift, rows, presses, chin-ups, plank variations, etc. You need to get 1,000 repetitions of those done well, not within a close proximity of failure, and often, and under control with a controlled tempo. When you accomplish those 1,000 repetitions of those exercises, you've graduated and earned the right to start pushing at a closer proximity to failure in how hard you're training with each exercise. Because now when you do that, you're not going to move poorly just to move the weight, and you've ingrained strong, clean movement patterns so that when it does get hard, you still move well and you don't get hurt.
No.
Right? And then after you've done that, well, now we can move to upper lower. And upper lower, we're still going to focus on those compound exercises and different variations of them every 4 weeks as a means of progression. But now we've earned the right to do a little bit more isolation too. Because we're also condensing how much volume we're doing per session. So when you're on a full body training program, you're hitting your whole body once, you don't have time for isolations.
Right.
It's a waste of your time. Don't do that. When you're upper lower, then you have a little more time for isolation exercises in your 45, 50 minute workout, because you're splitting the body in half. And at the same time, you're increasing the training volume per muscle per session. You're doubling it when you go from full body to upper lower.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to push pull legs, when you've graduated from that upper lower program and you go to push pull legs, well, now you're cutting the body into 3 parts. So you're increasing the training volume per muscle per session yet again by, I don't know, I'm not a mathematician, we'll call it 15%, whatever. We're increasing it, right? And now you've earned the right to even do more isolation exercises, right? And then we start looking at intensity methods, because you've ingrained these movement patterns and a mind-muscle connection, and you train so well that when it comes time to start using intensity methods, drop sets, cluster sets, lengthened partials, pause sets, etc., you're not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I would say that that's probably one of the things that I see the most with clients is like they don't master the basics before they jump into something much more difficult. Like, I love YouTube. I remember probably, I don't know, 2006, 7, 8, whenever it came out. You know, I was just like, you could watch. It was a completely different platform there. But I was like, that was like the first time where we could just like watch a video. You could search something. You didn't know how to do something. You could search it and stuff. And so you just start consuming all this content. And now like, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. Like we're constantly bombarded with reels, and there's this new training method, this new exercise and stuff. And I think at least what I've seen, the buy-in to get someone to stick to the same thing. If you could stick to the same program for 8 to 12 weeks, you'd probably make really great progress. But to get someone now to buy in for 4 weeks to the same thing, like that's very difficult. I do the same thing with my client. You know, I switch about every 4 weeks or so. We switch it up to do something different, and we don't switch out everything. You know, similar moves, similar exercises, kind of like what you're talking about there. But it's switching it up too soon, I think, has been one of the things where it's like, you know, people have been working out. They're like, you know, I work out 3 days a week, and I have for the past 5 years, and I feel like I'm not making progress. And it's like, well, you've been working out, but we've been doing a little of this, doing a little of that, and kind of jumping into stuff. And so when you're working with clients here, like what is that? Do you have like a roadmap where you kind of show them like, you know, this is what we're going to do here, and then this is where we're going to end up, you know, a year from now?
Yeah, 100%. So my roadmap, and also I think it's important to understand that like you can have a roadmap to something, and the next thing you know, you pull up to a construction site that's not listed on your map, and you might have to take a little bit of a detour or a different direction. So yeah, like I have a roadmap and a blueprint that I run with people, and it's like they go from the fast, fat, loss, frequency method to get lean. And then from get the fast, fat, loss, frequency method, they go to explode and grow, which is a recomposition program, upper, lower, full body, upper, lower. Then they go to anabolic anatomy, which has like a little bit more advanced, little bit more nuance in how you move to it, as a muscle building program as its primary focus, but not high intensity. Then from there, we go back to upper lower, which is a cluster muscle method, which is about cluster sets is like multiple pauses in training to simplify it, because there's 2 styles of clusters that I use in that program. One's for strength, one's for muscle. And then I've got this super stretch size and shreds that I call. This is about an intensity method of extending your sets through length and partials, because I think less length and partials are great, but I think the science in like everybody's just losing their mind and just like losing the idea of what it is how it's supposed to be used. And then I also have a hybrid program that's called Metabolic Muscle Madness that has full body for 4 weeks, upper lower for 4 weeks, and push pull legs for 4 weeks. Each of those programs use the law of specificity to drive a specific outcome that I can guarantee to my clients because I've delivered it to hundreds of them. Right. You want to lose fat? Metabolic Muscle Madness or the fast, fat, less frequency method. You want to chill out and recomp now because you've worked hard for 3 months and it's leading into the summer and you just want to maintain, grow a little bit of muscle, but maybe lean out and tone a little bit. That is Explode and Grow. You want to grow as much muscle as you possibly can. I got my other 3 programs that I run in sequence, right? So now I got all these programs that have all these specific intentions. Mm-hmm. My clients can always be chasing after something as well, which is motivating. And because I change the exercises every 4 weeks in each program with subtle variations, the central nervous system skill aspect of picking new exercises every 4 weeks stays pretty heightened, which means they feel the joy of progressing constantly. Yeah. And then also, we've got all these different programs to run at different times of the year based upon what's going on. If it's summertime, if it's the holidays, if it's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They all line up with your lifestyle. And you're not going to be that guy who's been going to the gym for the last 9 months doing the same workouts over and over again, making no progress, wondering what's going wrong, and literally going into the gym being like, I guess I'm going to go do these 5 exercises again, and it's going to be so exciting because I'm going to hit the same weight for the same reps for the same number of sets, and then go home because. And don't get me wrong, will you be healthier doing that than not working out? Absolutely. But do you want to change and have a transformation? Then, in my opinion, you got to look at some of these things. And the reason I do it this way is the law of specificity, mental excitement, having a goal constantly to work towards so you're not feeling stale and unmotivated, right? And also there's different seasons in the year, so therefore my programs deliver different seasonal goals, right?
Now, when you are rotating exercises, this is something that kind of popped up that I was thinking about when you were saying this. So let's say you go from Bulgarian split squats to, or front lunge or something, or a step up, box step up or something. So you're going like, from the way you explained it, it sounds like it could be 2 to 3 months before you come back to an exercise. Did I understand that correctly?
I guess it depends on the exercise.
Okay.
And it depends on the program. Right? So say, for example, the full body workout, obviously, like you're doing lots of different variations of like squats and stuff because it's full body, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it depends a little bit, but, yeah, honestly, the best answer I could say there is really, literally, it depends, and I haven't put that much kind of like thought into it. Yeah.
The reason I asked that is because I know sometimes like let's say we're hitting Bulgarian split squats for 8 weeks or something. We're making tons and tons of progress. Obviously those first 4 weeks you're probably going to make more progress than the next 4. At least it's going to slow down a little bit. Then if we switch to, a reverse lunge or something like that, we do that for a while, and then we come back to the Bulgarian split squat, what I've noticed is it usually takes people like a week or 2 to kind of get back to those numbers. Just want neural adaptations, and you usually get it back pretty quickly. My question is if you are switching up and kind of rotating them, have you noticed where people kind of feel like, oh, I lost strength here, and that's kind of deflating, or have you not really come across that much?
No, I haven't. And because of the fact that, again, like, man, I am such a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So another part of the reasons why I like to rotate different exercises every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the program for clarity, actually. is because I believe that you should have peaks and valleys of intensity of how hard you're training at all times.
Yeah.
So if we look at, there's a lot of great information from bodybuilders out there. We look at Dorian Yates, for example. He trained extremely intense and he needed to deload himself often to be able to progress, or he wouldn't be able to progress. And a deload is when you're pulling back the intensity of your training through how hard you're trying, how much volume you're doing, et cetera, all these factors. Okay. So what I'm doing with a client is like, okay, week 1, we're selecting an exercise. I want you to feel like you have, depending on the program, I'll use a random number, depending on the program, I want you to feel like you have 2 reps left at the end of this set. And that's the weight that you're using. Great. Depending on the program, I want you to go up by this percentage or the next available increase. And I want you to either stay within the same rep range, or I want you to go to a different rep range based upon how I'm stacking my progressions together. And you're now pushing the intensity. So they're pushing the intensity fairly quickly on all exercises.
Yeah.
Except for the fast, fat, less frequency method for the first 4 weeks, because that's all about skill development. So I haven't really found that, because I'm strategically deloading them, and then they push as hard as they can, and then they deload. And when they deload back to an exercise, most often, they're supposed to be using, usually what happens is they're using more weight than they did the last time they were at that rep range.
Yeah.
But now they feel like they have 2 or 3 reps left, because I'm also using the exercises often enough that the skill doesn't disappear. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now I've seen coaches, there's kind of different ways to deload. And I found some coaches like to do it where you'll do like 2 sets of 2 or some of a certain exercise, and then you have other coaches who you're doing 3 sets of 8 or whatever, but you're doing it at like 60% of your max. Have you found like one you like one better than the other? Your clients like one more than the other, or do you think it really matters too much?
So I think it depends on the individual. And I think like with that, as a coach, you got to think about who you're working with. Okay. So for me, for example, I like to train heavy. I like to train heavy and hard. And when I say heavy and hard, I'm in a conventional bodybuilding rep range. I don't power lift anymore, although I wish I could, but I'm old and I've had injuries and etc. So I like to train heavy and hard. And I will keep my exercises the same depending on what I'm doing for sometimes 8, 9, 10 weeks until I can't push anymore. But I'm really, really honest with myself as to what I can accomplish when I push and how far I can push my body. So with that, people that we help, they're not gym nerds like we are. They don't love the gym and want their whole life to be about gym like we've decided our career and our passion and all that stuff.
Right.
So for me, I'll push, and then maybe I only go into the gym 2 days for a week, or maybe I really pull back my intensity and I'm nowhere even near where I feel I could go, and I listen to my body until I'm feeling fresh and recovered, and then I push it again.
Yeah.
What I've built in is it's a system for my clients to be able to just innately do that by following my instructions.
Yeah.
So again, like it depends on the individual, but so what I like to do there is also, because the neural adaptation that takes place from starting a new exercise that you haven't maybe necessarily done in 4 weeks, and they're telling themselves they have 2 or 3 reps left, as an example, but realistically they probably have 3 or 4 or 5 reps left, because that's just how people are wired.
Yeah.
And then when they start pushing and chasing their PRs, they're motivated by their PRs, and so it's created this like natural progression for them where they're inherently peaking and deloading and peaking and deloading. And the peak and deload, if you're listening to this and not watching it, you're on a roller coaster and you're going all the way up the roller coaster, and you get to your peak, and your deload is a little valley in the roller coaster before you take the next peak, and it's a little valley before you take the next peak. You take those 3 peaks That's the top of the roller coaster where you can literally see your house from the top of the roller coaster. That's, I'm there. Okay, I'm such... Anyways. The next program is where the roller coaster goes and drops. And when it drops on the next program, that's a pure deload.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you can almost classify them as deloads and reloads depending on where they're at in the stage of the program. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that was that answered my question and kind of your thoughts on there. And the reason, so I really liked what you said earlier. You said, not our clients and a lot of the people listening to this, they don't live in the gym, right? And it's like that's not their life. Like obviously we as coaches, like we are probably gonna like this stuff more and care much more about this. Like I know for my clients, I'll ask them to do something and they're like, oh, like, is this double progression? Like they never ask me that, they don't like. I'll explain it to them sometimes. If they're like, okay, it's like as long as the workout's there on Tuesday when they want to work out, they don't, they don't care too much. And for me specifically, like working with dads, I found I really don't have to do a lot of deloads for clients because we have, like as dads, like if you go out of town for work or your kid's got a birthday party, you got a bunch of games that week and you can't work out, like we have these like natural deloads that get built in, and so we don't really have to do a ton of those. The reason why I was asking with the and kind of the different methods there though too is like I know for me, I hired a coach one time and it was like his deload structure was like 2 sets of 2 with like 80% or something like this, and I would do it and I would get done with the workout. I was like, I feel like I did nothing, And I was like, I don't want to do 2 reps of 70% of what I can do, and I was like, I got done with the workout and you're like, I don't even think I sweated today, and it's like and so it's like I know there's like kind of different methods, and I think you were talking earlier too, like how it depends on the clients and kind of the psychology behind it too. It's just like there's so much factored in there, and I think sometimes with clients feel like we give the same program to everybody. If you came and looked at my clients I train in person, a lot of the things would look very similar, but there's also a lot of customization there. It's like, oh, like we may be doing this squat with this person, but we have to elevate their heels. We have to focus shift on this. This person had plantar fasciitis, and so we can't do this and just things like that. And so it's like the principles, and you mentioned it earlier too, is like there's like the science. It's like what's on paper, like, and I think maybe we talked about this before, but there's theory and then there's practice, right? It's like what works on paper can sometimes be 2 very different things, and that's where I know you like to get to know your clients really well and stuff. And it's like the better you get to know your clients, the more you can actually customize it. And if you have clients who are just showing up doing the workouts and they're never communicating with you, then they're not getting the full advantage of actually hiring you as a coach.
Yeah. So also with that, man, so the other thing that I think a lot of people don't think about, because I think like there's 2 sides in the industry. There's the coaches who scream cookie cutter at all the other coaches.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like the coaches who have blueprints that they follow, that they tweak a little bit, are the coaches who are delivering the best results. Because I don't care how long you've been doing this.
Yeah.
You put something down on paper from scratch, it's kind of a guess, and it's probably a pretty educated guess. So all of my programs that I've ever run, I put them down on paper, I run them myself. I'm like, whoa, that worked really good, or whoa, I need to adjust this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
Then I run them with some clients for a case study group at a big discount, and then I make more adjustments based on feedback, and that's the final product. Yeah. If you have a recipe to bake good cookies, are you going to start from scratch every single time, or are you going to go to the cupboard and use your recipe that bakes good cookies?
Yeah.
Right? And what I do as well for personalization, that's where it comes in the coaching and my onboarding program. My onboarding program has 103 lessons in it. That it's like a 9-day onboarding period that teaches them everything before they start my program. Because I'm trying to empower my clients to be able to make decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
So they can look at the blueprint and be like, I learned in day 3 that this exercise I need to plate my heels based on my anatomy. I learned whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or, you know what, it says this exercise, but in the instructions, it has some substitutions. And this is the best substitution for me because Tom taught me how to make intelligent exercise substitutions, because he not only taught me why, but he taught me how his like crazy brain thinks about how he categorizes exercises. And that is also where some of that like customization comes in. It's through coaching, it's through onboarding, it's through feedback, but it's through educating them as well to be like, okay, how can I make a decision here? Unless you can teach, you can coach your clients a couple of ways, right? You can coach your clients where like they get to the gym and they see something on paper and they have no idea what to do and they freak out. And then they don't hear from you because God forbid you don't answer them for 30 minutes or an hour because you're driving or something.
Yeah.
They feel defeated and deflated because they can't do what they were supposed to do that day. Yeah. Some people will get hung up on that one thing and quit and walk out of the gym. Or you can educate them and prepare them so that when they walk in the gym and that comes up, they're like, I know what to do here because my coach taught me.
Yeah.
And I do that before people start my program. Yeah. Like a 9-day onboarding period is pretty... I think industry-wise, I don't know of any that are that long, and maybe I'm just patting myself on the back or whatever, but it's just how I like to do things, right?
Yeah, no, and I definitely think that's a missing piece in a lot of programs, is because a lot of times coaches will have a program, and it's like, if you want more information, you got to pay more. You gotta, if you want to figure out how to do this long term, you gotta, you have to keep signing up and stuff. But it's like, I always tell clients, it's like I'd love to work with you forever. But I understand I'm not going to get to work with you forever. And it's like, so my goal is always to teach them, like, I want to teach you as much as I can. If we have 12 weeks, I want you to learn as much as you can in 12 weeks. If we have 6 months, I want you to learn as much as you can in 6 months. So then, let's say after 6 months, you want to go do this on your own. You feel confident to do this on your own. And I think, having, I've had clients too who, they go to the gym and they're like, hey, I substituted with this and this and this, but that's part of the education, right? It's like, and then there are some people like, oh, I went, or for whatever reason, every once in a while, maybe the spreadsheet got messed up or somebody didn't have a program when they went to the gym and stuff. Yeah, there's two types of people. One who are like, all right, I'll figure this out, like I know what to do. Or the other side says, well, I couldn't work out today because I didn't have my workout.
Right.
And it's like, but during your onboarding process, if you taught them, this is what we focus on first. This is why we do this first and stuff. Then it's like, and that's how, to be honest, a lot of my clients are like, one of them, like one of their programs, didn't copy over, whatever the case was in the app. And they're like, yeah, but I went there and I got this and this and this done today and stuff. And it was good. And I was like, all right, well, great. I was like, well, sorry about that. That's my fault for not, having it ready for you. But I was like, they still got just as much out and it didn't matter. And you scale it out 3-4 months down the road. It's like, well, that one workout where they forgot to do the dumbbell flies at the end, or something. It's like, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot. There's a lot of layers to that too, man. So like all my podcast episodes and stuff that I've personally done, the majority of them in the beginning were what are things that I think my clients need to be able to learn and know and stuff. So if they're going on a vacation, I'm like, here's podcast episode number 26. Listen to that before you go on the vacation. I did a live masterclass on how to, not gain 20 pounds over the summer. Yeah. Here is that at minute 15:37, and it tells you what to do for workouts if you're traveling and you don't have any gear. Here's this tool for that circumstance. Here's that tool for this circumstance. So there's that as well when it comes to the support. It's not just purely in the onboarding, but all these tools and things that I've done over the years, I've collected them, and some of them were for different purposes. But over the years, I've been like, oh, you know what? Here, check out this how to deadlift video that I did for social media that got like 25 views, and like my ex-wife liked it and that was it. But you know what? It's still a good video that I can send to you because of what I see in your deadlifts, right? And the other thing that I think you made a really good point, man, because I think there's two sides in the industry too, is just like retention's really important for us as to have a very what you would say like healthy business model, I guess you would say, right? I try to view my retention in a way of where it's like I've got great relationships with my clients. They get great results. they know I'm always there, and they know that like they'll have the support and they'll focus on these different things at different times.
Yeah.
But the lifespan of how long somebody works with me on average, because I try to educate them so well, is shorter than that of others. So like if there's trainers out there, not that I haven't had clients who have trained with me for 5 years, but like it's not a flex to be like, all my clients have been training with me for 6 years.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, man, well, that just means all your clients are dependent on you to be able to do this on your own. And you got your own business model. That's great. But my goal is to try to work myself out of a job with my clients.
Yeah, yeah.
And they walk away from that where their closest friends and family members, they're like, go to Tom because he'll treat you like this and you won't be dependent on him for life, right?
Yeah. And I definitely agree with that. Like I think there's two different sides of this, and we get lumped into the same thing. There's personal training that you train in person, and then there's online coaching. Correct. And although a lot of crossover between the two, they're very different, right? They're very different in regards to outcomes. I have personal training clients that I've worked. One of them, we're about to hit our 6-year mark here in a few months. Another one is like over 4 years, and it's like these people show up consistently every week. They tell me all the time, they're like I love coming to work out here. Like I'm always excited to come, and I was like, great, you know. And it's like we kind of, if I learn something new, a new variation of an exercise, I'll teach them it. But a lot of times it's just the accountability. Like we're showing up in the morning, online coaching. We have a very specific outcome, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's coming in, obviously if somebody wants to lose 20 pounds or somebody wants to lose 100 pounds, it's going to take a little bit more time. If you lost 100 pounds in 12 weeks, I'd be a little concerned, you know? So it's like there are different programs there and stuff. If it took us 2 years to get you to lose 20 pounds, obviously there's a disconnect there somewhere. Either, I got to improve my coaching, adherence to the program, something's coming on there. It's like, but the tools never change, right? It's like, and then you get those people who, I don't know what you call, I have a program I call like my legacy program here, where like people come in and it's like, it's kind of stripped down. Those first 6 months there are much more intensive, a lot more one-on-one communication, more lessons, more learning. And then if they want to continue after, 6 months to a year, it's a lot of just, maybe a monthly call, kind of check in here every few weeks, depending on kind of what they need and stuff, new workouts and stuff. And it's like, it's really then it kind of shifts to that in-person training model there, where it's like, you're just getting the accountability. You're having somebody check in. But yeah, I think they're, and I've hired other coaches. I've seen lots of different ways to do it, but I was like, yeah, it is hard because it's like, yeah, I love working with these people, and then your relationship with them is kind of a coach client. Even though you kind of you get to become friends, you get to know them, you get to know them on a deeper level. But once you stop the coaching, like you don't talk to them as much, you don't see them as much. So it's kind of hard in that respect. But yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I've actually recently introduced a legacy model for clients as well. Just kind of recently, it's something that I've kind of like I had for a bit, and then I kind of like reintroduced it. Mm-hmm. That's just a little bit of a different thing for people who need less of that like hand holding and just like the blueprint. And honestly, with online coaching in a legacy program, there's probably really actually very little accountability if you think about it, because in my legacy program, I still give them weekly check-ins or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? But in my concierge coaching, they're connected on a personal call with me every single 2 weeks. And if they're people who respect someone's time, there's way more accountability with that than there is with just a weekly check-in or a bi-weekly or a monthly. But I do want to reiterate what you said with in-person training. It's a different thing. I've got clients who have been training with me since 2018 in person training, because they're not going to do online coaching. Yeah. Even though I've told them like this would be better for you price wise. Yeah. They're not going to do online coaching. They're not going to work out on their own, and they're showing up for the session because they're appointment based individuals, and they will not disrespect your time and not show up. Yep. And every workout that they don't show up for, they lose money, because they get billed per session. Yeah. So the accountability is different. And yeah, absolutely. In-person training, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years,
Yeah.
for sure. Online coaching, my goal, I want to educate you. I want to educate you enough till that, like, there's some point you're kind of scratching your head being like, why am I still doing this with him?
Yeah.
Because I know everything now, and I've run his programs so often, I know how to do things, and that's where we
Right.
look at the legacy thing. But yeah, it was a very good point, man.
Yeah. Tom, I've enjoyed our talk today, and I think, just kind of, obviously, if people have been listening to the show for a while, they kind of understand my approach to coaching. And so I like bringing other coaches on because there's so many different ways. There's so many different ways to get someone a result, kind of depending on what you're looking for. And so I thought you had a very unique way of doing that. So I enjoyed the conversation that, what you were able to share with us. And I know from the two times, we've talked here kind of on extended times here that you're an open book, right? You're, you just kind of share everything. I know some people kind of gatekeep, what they have. And I definitely don't get that vibe from you at all. You're willing to kind of share everything. So I definitely appreciate that. Before we wrap up here, is there anything else that, you want to share? Anything that you think would be a kind of a valuable takeaway?
No, I appreciate that you recognize that, man. Like, the way that I look at doing things is very much like all the information in my brain is out there, and if you want help from me, I'll help you with the implementation and the systemizing of everything, and we'll make sure it's something that like sticks. You can listen to my 200 podcasts and try to figure it out. It's going to take you 200 hours, right?
Yeah.
Or if you just want to hire me and, I'll put you in, it'll literally just go. But that's the way that I like to operate, is to give the information out there. And I think that, like, there's not enough context behind a lot of the information that's out on social media if you're talking about like wanting to add something else. This is the best way for that, and that's the best way for this. Okay, this is the best way for that, if and or but, and you've been training for this long and have this many days a week and this much time per session. That's the best for that. But social media is like, this is the best for muscle growth. We need more context than the 60 seconds that are in Reels, but that's social media. So that's something that I think is important for people to think about when they're listening to social media information, is like, can I try to peel back the layers of the onion of what this particular message is? Because the algorithms just feed us, 15 seconds, I think, are the best ones or whatever, but you know what I mean, right? So yeah, appreciate you having me on, man. I could literally ramble forever, so I'll stop.
Yeah, man. I think you at the beginning of the show you mentioned kind of where everybody could find you. I'll make sure to kind of put all those links inside the show notes here so people can find you. But yeah, man. Like I said, I appreciated you coming on here. I felt like you had a very unique, kind of way of talking about things. And I think we dove a little deeper into some of the actual programming and kind of like some of the tangible things clients actually get inside your program. So I think that was really good. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man. I think the biggest thing that like people can take away from this as well is just the thought process maybe of like how I do things. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be as complicated as I'm explaining them, because like, hey, like I'm kind of a nerd and I've been doing this stuff since I was like 13 years old. So I've got however many hours nerding out on this stuff. But if you can look at even a couple of takeaways from these things of like the simplest way to look at it, go do full body for 12 weeks, then do upper lower for 12 weeks, then do push pull legs, and then go from there. And consider that different splits are better for different outcomes in the simplest version. Full body's best for fat loss. And we're talking 4-day per week training as well for context. Full body's best for fat loss. Upper lower is probably best for recomp. Push pull legs is probably best for muscle growth, and that would be a good takeaway for you. And then if you're looking for more information, my podcast is Tom the Trainer's Fitness Over 40. It's on all the spaces where you'll find podcasts. Facebook is Tom Mouland, which I just mispronounced, but Tom Mouland, Tom Mouland, whatever. Because people have been calling me Mouland my whole life. So Tom Mouland on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then Instagram is Tom the Trainer Fitness.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother.
That concludes this episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. Thank you for those of you who took time out of your busy schedules to listen. If you have any questions or comments or an idea for a topic for a future episode, please feel free to reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.